Hey guys, good morning. It's Friday. Welcome to the Huddle. I don't know about y'all, but I'm ready for the weekend. I'm ready.
Oh my God. It's a fake 3-day weekend for me, at least. And I'm sure we're doing the show Monday. I've got
Yes, we are.
show Monday too. So it's like, I'm excited, but I'm also like, except for the traffic that I don't have to deal with. Yeah, I'm not. And then the Patriots play Sunday, 3:00. Thank God I can go to bed at a decent hour after a big win.
There you go.
Yeah, and although before we get going, because this was a huge thing last time, Rachel, you're wearing fur. How many furs do you? But that's
You
not
and Aaron Andrews.
It's not the same fur. How many furs do you own here?
First off, they're not real. Okay.
But they're still spectacular, right?
There's a couple in my closet. Listen, guys, I'm a 36-year-old woman. I have a big closet and it's full. So, occasionally I'll.
I don't wear that much fur. Just so anyone, if you're listening, Dan, I'm not a big fur guy.
Okay.
Right.
Maybe you should try this on. It'll change your mind.
Yeah.
Speaking of fur, right before the show, I had literally 3 deer cross in front of my window. So it's going to be a good day. I think that was a good omen.
Now, Sean, is that double Navy? Do you have 2 Navy?
No, it's a nice polo. This is the commemorative. This is a gift from producer Ronnie on my show. This is the Navy commemorative hoodie. So it's got the Navy on the other side, the Navy patch. This is it's not a uniform item. Don't get excited. It's just
Navy is your favorite color. Do I remember that?
100%. Yeah.
All right.
It hides a lot.
It's Fashion Friday, so this maybe will be a new segment.
By the way.
Yeah. I don't. Maybe it's because I'm fair skinned. I don't do as well in black. I'm a navy blue kind of guy. Hey, random question before we get into it. I keep seeing this 2016 trend where everyone's posting like top photos, and I started to go through it the last 24 hours because 2016 was a big year. Obviously, the election, conventions, debate.
Yeah.
Are you guys into this at all?
I saw it, but I don't know what the purpose is. What is that? Why are people?
I think it's like a 10-year flashback. Like you post a bunch of photos from 2016 because it's 10 years ago. But it was funny. I started talk about a rabbit hole. I mean, there's so many great debate photos that behind the scenes photos that we were taking during that lead up to Donald Trump at the convention and then the election night. So I'm going to have a blast with this weekend. I might have like a 2016, like, I don't know whether I can do it in 10 photos.
I don't know that I want to see the difference in my wrinkles from 10 years ago and now. So I'm going to pass on that one.
All right. Wrinkles, Rachel? I don't.
I do. Don't look too close. Right. It's called makeup, Dan. All right, guys, let's jump in. Friday, fun day. We have a special guest today. Congressman Rachael is going to be joining us in a few minutes. Progressive from Silicon Valley. He's obviously a rising star in the party, already a star, rising star. He is a star in the party. Very close with Sanders. Bernie Sanders, AOC, also has close relationship with some of the old guard, like Nancy Pelosi. And one of the things I like about him is he is one of the few Democrats who's willing to go on places like Fox News into sort of the lion's den when it comes to talking to other Republicans who he may disagree with. And so we really appreciate him coming on the show. And
Can
one
I
last
just say, by the way, before we get going with Roe,
sure.
We always talk about Gavin Newsom had a great 2025. I think the person who may have had the second/equally the best 2025 as a Democratic 2028 candidate is Rachael.
There you go. Yeah. And by the way, one last nugget about him that I think is interesting. J.D. Vance, the vice president, was asked in an interview in December which Democrats he respects most. Kana was on the list. So we'll actually talk to him a little bit about that.
I just say this real quick since before we back in the day, I used to, when I lived on Capitol Hill and I'd walk to work, I used to walk a lot of mornings with Paul Wellstone, the former senator from Minnesota. And I was a Republican operative. The thing I loved about Wellstone is that like he meant what he said. He wasn't full of it, right? And like I diametrically opposed to almost every policy that he ever uttered. But like I respect the guy. And I think Ro Khanna is in that mold. Like he actually believes what he says. He's not full of crap. And in this day and age where we talk a lot about authenticity, I'll give Ro a ton of credit for being like a real. I've talked to him privately, and I've had him on. You know, we've had him on before. He is the same guy you see in private, in public, and in a time when people are dying for authenticity. You may not agree with like everything he says on my side of the aisle, but you got to give him credit for being real.
Absolutely.
How's that for a wind up for him? You're welcome, Congressman.
Not us talking about
Right.
One last housekeeping note. After today's show, we are going to be jumping into our premium subscription rollout. Guys, if you signed up and you want to get some extra time with us, Dan and I are going to be staying for a little bit longer. We'll be jumping into that other Zoom meeting so we can talk more with you on camera, get to know you a little more. And again, thanks to everyone who has signed up for a premium subscription. You guys can do so today. If you're interested, $10 a month, $100 a year, get some extra time with us every week. And it really helps support the show. So we really appreciate you guys. Top 5 today. Today's 5. We're going to talk about Minnesota mayhem. We'll talk about David Plouffe's advice. This is Obama's former campaign manager, wrote this op-ed in New York Times. It's quite interesting. We'll get there in a few minutes. 2028 potpourri, just a lot of little things we want to ask Khanna about. This Ben Shapiro exchange with Gavin Newsom in particular. We'll play it for you guys and we'll dig in with Khanna. We'll talk about the Epstein files, where we are with this. This is something the congressman has been at the fore driving on this issue. So we'll bring him in on that. And then, of course, we'll do our fun Friday segment. Who are you buying? Who are you selling? And what are you monitoring? Basically, winners and losers. But first, let's look at the day book. There's really not a ton going on today. The Senate is out and will be out for recess for the next week. The House, I believe if they haven't left town, they're leaving town very soon. And they will be back for a little bit next week, and then they'll be on recess. The president at 10 a.m. Participates in a roundtable on investment in rural health at the White House before he heads to Palm Beach. At 3:15, he's going to be participating in the Southern Boulevard dedication ceremony in Palm Beach. We also want to flag that Israel's spy chief is in the U.S. He's going to be
in Miami. Yep.
Yes, meeting with Steve Witkoff to talk about Iran. Guys, we are seeing more stories of folks in the Middle East really sort of pushing back and saying to the president, don't do this. There's some reporting in Axios that Bibi actually talked to the president on Wednesday and sort of cautioned against a strike right now. And it does look like the president has sort of obviously pushed pause, or he hasn't stepped on the gas in terms of a strike. But part of me is wondering if this is all sort of a fake out. Like, remember with the Iran strike last time around, he said he was going to decide in 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden there was a strike.
Venezuela. Same thing.
Like,
telling you.
What are you predicting on this? What do you guys predict?
I would keep your eyes on the screen this weekend, or at least on Truth Social.
Ooh, Lordy.
Somebody in our group chat is monitoring pizza orders.
Not just pizza orders. Look at the chart. There's a chart of Domino's and Papa John's pizza orders from within a 1.5 mile radius of the Pentagon, and they have spiked.
You know, when you sent that, I had no idea what the hell you were talking about, and now I get it.
Oh my God!
There you go.
You, look, here's what you have to understand is that I don't even know that it's 24 hours because it's been a while. There is, at least, even on the weekends, there was only one. It was like in the far corner of like E-Ring that there was like a cart that was open on the weekend. So if you wanted food, you either had to go there or walk out of the Pentagon. So things like that. Maybe if you haven't been stationed there are important tells.
One last thing, we should bring up element 1. The president got his Nobel Peace Prize, kind of, sorta, that he's wanted for a long time. Obviously, the committee says you can't give your Peace Prize away, but Maria Corina Machado, she presented this to the president. It is now, I don't know where he's going to hang it. Sean, do you think this will be in the Oval Office?
Right next to the Declaration of Independence.
Can I just say, though, whoever advised her on that frame, it fits very well with the decor.
Does.
I am so glad you brought that up, Dan. I thought the same thing. I'm like, the framing is spectacular.
I mean, always be. Yeah.
I have one guy that I want to check. I'm going to actually make a note. I think I know who did it.
No, it's
find out where it's going to be too. Like, is Is it in the Oval? Is it in like the entryway? Like, oh, by the way, did you see this? You know,
it could be in the private dining room. That's not a bad.
Okay.
Getting good advice on people close to.
Did you do it, Rachel? Do you have a? Because I think I know who framed it. I'll just follow up.
It's got to be the Treasury Secretary's wife, right? No, maybe. Who has been advising her?
But I know the actual. I think I know the guy.
Oh, it's a guy. Okay, never mind. Okay, let's do a word from our sponsors first, and then we will bring in.
Hey, Rachel, just before you get to that, because we're not going to talk about it, I do want to just flag that the Trump and a bunch of governors are announcing this electricity auction to deal with kind of the surge of AI. We were talking before the show. It is remarkable how many of these little things the Trump White House is doing on affordability. Susie Wiles talked about electricity prices as a huge kind of like how your gut. It's amazing how much they're stepping on it with everything else going on.
Can I just say this, Dan? Totally different direction. I've been talking to a lot of energy folks in the last little while. The dirty little secret about what's going on in our lack of ability to address the needs of what AI will bring energy-wise. It's amazing. I think it's the biggest untold secret. We do not have the current capability to address it, and that's
and he's got a bipartisan set of governors. It is red and blue.
No. This is a national issue. Like we do not, and there is a huge there's a delta between when you can get online a lot of stuff, even nuclear, whatever, and what the need will be in the interim. So. Yep. It's a big deal. What he's doing today, I'm glad it's bipartisan because this is a national security issue.
It's a really smart Trump move. Yep.
Good flag, Dan. Good flag. All right, let's do a word from our sponsors, then we'll bring in the congressman.
Yeah, look, there's one thing. We're going to get really comfy and close today with our guests. What I think we might want to do is bring him in with a bubble blanket from Cozy Earth, outfit him with some pajamas and joggers. If Congressman Khanna wants, we can have him use our code Huddle at CozyEarth.com. If he's looking like that guy's got to commute back and forth to California all the time. And I gotta say, if I were getting on that flight, I'd want a pair of Cozy Earth joggers. I don't know. Sometimes he probably takes the red eye, maybe the pajamas and eye mask. Congressman, I will personally help you use the code. If you go to CozyEarth.com Huddle. If you're a commuter, if you're going to be sitting around watching football, gathering with your family like Dan did, get the bubble blanket, take a shower and get out of the shower with the luxury towels. They're amazing. Again, the whole Spicer family got outfitted at Christmas time because there's something for everyone, including yourself. So go to CozyEarth.com, use code Huddle for up to 20% off site-wide, and then just thank us.
Sean, do you put on pajamas on red eyes? I don't change. I mean,
not on red eyes. If I'm going overseas, like not to Europe, but if I've done some long ones, and then I'll change into like sweatpants or something.
Okay, sweatpants are pajamas.
Oh yeah,
I digress.
100%. You guys ever see that Reagan photo where he had the shirt and tie on, but he would put sweatpants on when he had long flights, and like there are photos of him with tie. Starch shirt and sweatpants. They're like
it's like the modern equivalent of doing the home studio where you're wearing shorts.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's bring in the congressman right now. Hey, there he is.
I'm a little nervous with that setup. I mean, anytime people say nice things before the interview, I'm waiting.
You've been around the block.
No, it's true. I think there's not a lot of folks on the right talking to folks on the left these days, and it's good to see. So
And you had an amazing 2025, or you had an amazing 2025.
Where are you joining us from, by the way? Are you in your office, or are you?
Oh, look at the wood. That's Longworth, if I'm not mistaken. Correct?
Cannon.
Sorry,
close.
Third floor. Oh, you're down from 5. That's a big deal.
I started out in 5. When I was first in Congress, and they don't have elevators that could go to the 5th floor. So half my constituents couldn't find the office.
Oof, that's a little brutal.
Or a blessing.
Okay. Let's jump in. We've got to start with Minnesota because obviously that's where the full nation is focused right now. And, you made some news earlier this week, Congressman, because you did this video where you called for the arrest and prosecution of this ICE official who killed Renee Good. Now, I just want to say, first of all, I would say probably a majority of our viewers, disagree with that. I think the three of us have come out and talked about this too. We would disagree with that as well, even as we say this was an awful tragedy. But, this guy, this officer, he'd been sort of attacked by protesters before, or at least once. There was this reporting that he was sort of dragged by a car 50 yards, had 30 stitches, and that the situation, when you look at this video, was clearly hairy. I guess I just want to start, talking to you about that video you made where you said, he should be prosecuted and arrested. Is there any part of you that looks at that video and says, okay, this guy, might have been fearing for his life and this could have been out of self-defense?
I do think that he may have been in harm's way and acted in that way. I just don't think that killing a 37-year-old is the answer to that. I mean, there are things you can do short of killing someone. You have to use the least necessary force in a situation. And part of this may be not having de-escalation training. Part of it may be not being overseen by justice. The other thing is, I didn't say put him in jail. I said arrest him and prosecute him. And of course, if he has self-defense arguments, he should have due process in doing that. One thing before hearing your perspectives that I want to make clear is you have literally 2,000 to 3,000 ICE agents in Minneapolis. That's 10% of the entire enforcement is in Minneapolis. And even if you believe the numbers of the administration of about 130 or 200,000 undocumented, you have about 1% of the undocumented in Minneapolis. So why do we have 10 to 1 of this force in Minneapolis? And isn't this creating an unnecessary escalatory situation?
Do you concede that Good shouldn't have, parked her car in the middle of sort of an ICE operation like that? Like, do you see any issue with, her and her partner's actions?
Yeah, I don't think she should be disrupting law enforcement with automobiles. I certainly don't think she should be getting close to assaulting ICE officers. And I have zero tolerance for anyone who assaults or puts ICE officers in danger or physically is impeding law enforcement. That's very different than peaceful protest. That said, I don't believe that capital punishment is the answer for that, right? I mean, one could have a view that Good should not have been with the car with the officer and still have the view that the officer shouldn't have shot her to death.
But so sort of conceding that she perhaps shouldn't have been acting the way she did, and then also acknowledging that, the officer could have been fearing for his life. These are sort of split-second decisions. Like, doesn't that sort of make you feel a little empathy for what happened in terms of not just her, obviously everybody feels that, but also for the officer, instead of just going out and saying this guy's, you're not calling him a murderer. I will concede that, right? You haven't used that language. We've seen some Democrats do that, but you are, or are you? Would you call this murder?
Well, that's the court to decide. I mean, I'm not the jury, and I'm not going to judge that. I do think he's entitled to due process. I just think from what my looking at the video, seeing her turn the tires, thinking that there are other things he could have done, shoot the tires, move out of the way, call in help. My view is that killing her point blank was a disproportionate and excessive use of force. Now, he'll have lawyers, he can do that. But when you have a case in the Justice Department with career justice officials resigning from the Civil Rights Division because they didn't even open up an investigation, they didn't even look at whether to bring charges, that is a breakdown in our judicial system.
Yeah, no, I think we've talked a little bit on the show about how we think an investigation would help everybody, like the whole entire situation, even as we've said this was a tragedy, and calls that this guy's a murderer are totally and completely unfair. Sean, Dan, I want to talk about the rhetoric we're seeing right now in Minnesota, but on this particular situation, do you guys have any questions you want to add in to that?
So the only thing I want to do, Congressman, I think you've answered some of it. So but the amazing thing to me, and I've been covering this on my 6 p.m. show, is I think Rachel addressed a bunch of it. We seem to be living in a world where my side says, a lot of people on my side said 100% what she did was 100% wrong. And then a lot of folks on the left are saying what the ICE agent did was wrong. And I don't think that that's helpful for the country. And I think this idea that that we can't agree on certain facts, but I just want to make sure I understand, and I just want to be clear because I think you've addressed it. So whether you agree or disagree, ICE did have a legal operation in Minnesota. Yes?
Well, I think those facts need to come out.
No. But what I'm saying is, like, if you're an agent in ICE, you were ordered to go to ICE because the executive branch, which is your boss, told you to go there. Correct? Okay.
Correct.
And it's illegal for an individual, as you said, to block a legal operation with their vehicle. Correct?
Correct. I view very differently someone standing outside saying, don't do this, illegal, versus physically getting in the way of a law enforcement officer and impeding that.
Okay. And whether or not you agree with ICE's operation or not, when they ordered her to get out of the car, that was a legal law enforcement action, correct?
Sure. I mean,
Right.
Okay.
And when she accelerated the car, that was in defiance of that legal activity, right? They said to her, get out of the car. She didn't get out of the car. She accelerated the car instead. That was in defiance of a legal order, correct?
Correct. But my sense of the video, and I've looked at it a couple of times, is that she turns the wheels to avoid him. But
again, if you had gotten out of the car in compliance with the order, regardless of how the wheels are turned or not turned, they ordered her to get out of the car, stop, get out of the vehicle. She accelerated and turned the wheel. Whether or not she intended to do it or not is in defiance of that legal order.
I could see that. I guess the question here is a disproportionate use of force.
Correct. Okay. And again, I think that's a fair discussion. I come down personally on the side of the fact that, as Rachel described at the beginning, you don't have the luxury, anyone for that matter, of when someone accelerates a car thinking, are they trying to kill me or not? Your answer is, and I don't believe, with all due respect, I don't think to saying he killed her in point blank. I don't know what your experience with firearms is, but that's not how that works. When a car hits you, you don't have the luxury of aiming at that point. You're firing.
I guess the question also, the deeper sense, Sean, is you have an ICE agent who's there to enforce immigration laws, killing an American citizen. Now, I'm not saying that she should have interfered, and I'm saying it's disproportionate. But why are we having this situation?
Again, that's a valid discussion about. But my point is, when I played this video the other night, when someone's standing in front of a moving car, whether they're protesting or just being a knucklehead, and then they go, "I can't believe the guy ran me over." You say to yourself, if that's your child, and they came home and said, "Hey, Dad, I ran in front of a car. I tried to push the car back and then it ended up running me over." You'd say, why would you stand in front of a moving car, you knucklehead? Right.
Well,
so that's where I think the question becomes down to, she put herself in this situation. She wasn't standing on the sidewalk and they didn't target her. They were conducting an operation. She put herself in the middle of it.
I think if what had happened is that her car had gotten a shot on the tires, if she was arrested, we would still have had disagreement. Should she be doing that in this country? I think it's the fact that she was killed. She's got a young boy. People are thinking, wow, this can happen to me as an American. And most people see her as protesting. Now, yes, it went too far, but they're saying, why are American citizens being killed or detained in some cases?
But isn't the answer?
Well, I think that
hold on, Dan. Let me I just want to clear this up, because I think if she was being targeted, if they went and yanked her out of a house, I would be 100% on your team and say, wow, that shouldn't have never happened.
And do you acknowledge that is happening to some Americans?
But you're asking when an American citizen puts themselves in the middle of any situation, regardless, if that was not ICE, if that was Bob or Susie Smith rolling down the streets of Minneapolis in a car and someone stood in front of it, it doesn't matter. Like,
but Sean, you know what? The American people agree with Roe because overwhelmingly they don't like this. Congressman, what is the mood in the caucus here? Like, you had Walz and the mayor starting to back off a little bit to say, hey, people need to disperse. People need to be a little more careful on these protests. What is the feeling in D.C. right now within the caucus? Emotions have run hot this week.
The emotions are very high on ICE. Look, the politics of this has totally changed from us being very much on the defensive on immigration, believing it was one of the reasons we lost the election, believing we didn't do enough to secure the border, to people seeing the way ICE has been operating, the way ICE is treating detainees and saying this is horrific. And I think this can't be viewed in isolation. I mean, this is not an ICE agency that has been conducting itself perfectly constitutionally, and then you have this incident where there is a disagreement over facts. This is a situation where multiple Americans have said they've been stopped, they've been detained, they've been harassed. It's a situation where people feel that even if you're an immigrant and undocumented, their rights are being violated. I think most Americans don't like it. They didn't like how the Democrats did things in candor. They didn't like the fact that we let in as many people who were undocumented. And one of the reasons Trump won is he said he was going to secure the border. And they don't like how ICE is operating with Trump. And they kind of want common sense, and they haven't gotten it from either parties.
So can I ask this? Hold on. I just want to. So I think that's a very good political setting, right? Democrats went too far on one end, and at least image-wise, there's a problem right now on the Republican side. Okay, so let's just say hypothetically, we want to solve this problem. And Team Trump says, hey, we won an election because we campaigned on getting people out of the country illegally. And the Democrats say, yeah, but now ICE is going too far. What is the solution that says, how do we get people who are in the country illegally out and yet not go too far?
So the first is to focus, actually, in my view, on violent criminals and people who committed violent crimes. The amount of people I can tell you in the Latino community, some who voted for Trump, who said, yeah, but I thought he was going to go after the bad guys. I didn't realize that he was going to come after my cousin or my uncle, is innumerable. And I think that the view is that he's going beyond just the criminals. And that's Stephen Miller's view. He's saying, I want 2,000 to 3,000 out. Now, I visited a California City detention center, and regardless of your view on what should happen to undocumented immigrants, it was appalling. There was a guy with a broken nose, no medical treatment, blood in his urine, no medical treatment. By the way, the warden I thought was perfectly reasonable. I had a 2-hour tour. He wanted to uphold the standards. I don't blame him. So why is this happening? Because we're pushing so many people into these facilities at Miller's order of 2,000 to 3,000 a day, and we don't have the resources. We don't even have the judges to voluntarily deport them.
Let's just one last little quick thing, because we want to keep moving to other topics. But where do you come down on this notion of defund ICE? I mean, that's obviously, there's a resurgence of that right now with congressional Democrats. Do you think the party should draw a hard line on this when it comes to the government funding deadline at the end of the month?
Well, we need to have immigration enforcement. That's what ICE is. I believe it should be under the Justice Department, not under Homeland Security. That's how it was prior to 9/11, and have oversight. But, obviously we need to enforce. There has to be someone functionally enforcing the nation's immigration laws. I mean, otherwise, who would do that? Now, I don't think that we need the massive increase in the funding, and that's what the debate is on in the end of January on appropriations. I mean, they took $150 billion more in terms of the appropriations for ICE at the expense of people's health care. And you see what ICE is doing. And I don't think that they should have had that additional funding.
Let's talk about David Plouffe's New York Times op-ed. The campaign manager for former President Obama and advisor to Kamala Harris. He has a new opinion piece saying that Dems need to win. If Dems want to win, they need to overhaul their brand and agenda by electing new faces and new leaders. He says right now, Democrats have no credible path to a sustained control of the Senate and the White House. Do you agree with that?
I'm going to answer the question, but David Plouffe, and I have a lot of respect for him. It reminds me of this anecdote with Michael Hooley. Michael Hooley won New Hampshire for Bill Clinton in '92, and he helped carry. And I went and said, Michael, how did you pull that off? How did you get Clinton, after all this Jennifer Flowers and all, to win New Hampshire? And Hooley says, well, let me tell you something. Bill Clinton knew the two things, an airplane and a microphone, and the rest of us came along for the ride. The amount of people's careers that Barack Obama made as a singular talent is innumerable. But I say that with respect for Plouffe. Look, I agree with Plouffe's central message that we need a good jobs message, low cost of living message, understanding technology and AI and how that's going to work for all of us, not for a few. I also was one of the first people to call for Chuck Schumer to step down. When you look, we can argue all the details, but when you look at Chuck Schumer on TV, do you think that's the future of America? I mean,
yes,
100%. No, it does. Now, Hakeem, I feel very differently. Obviously, I'm in the House. I feel differently. but he's winning. It's like, when you take out Brock Purdy for the Seattle Seahawks game, like why make a change? We're going to win. We're going to win 25 seats. And the same thing I say about Brock Purdy, which is kind of he's unflappable, is what I say about Hakeem. He's calm, he's cool, he doesn't have the same necessarily delivery style as some of us progressives, but he's got a caucus that complements him, and he's been a good leader, and he does look like the future.
Quick answer on this one: what grade would you give Chuck Schumer as a leader?
I'd give 2 grades. What grade would I give Chuck Schumer as a legislator over his 50 years? An A. I mean, we wouldn't have had the Inflation Reduction Act, the CHIPS Act without his leadership. What grade would I give him as the face of our party now? A D. I don't think. Here's our fundamental problem as Democratic Party. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance have been in elective office, 6-8 years total combined? I mean, a little bit more, 10 years. And we have people there for 50 years. And people are saying the country's not working. The institutions aren't working. The American dream is dead. A few billionaires control the country. It's hollowed out. Change it. How do you make that message? How do you say that, yeah, they screwed up, we have a better vision, if you've been part of the system for 30, 40 years?
Congressman, on that front, one of the big things in our party, in our caucus, is seniority. When I look at the dais on a lot of committees, people have been there for so long. Where do you come down on seniority and making people, kind of earn it?
I think it's a factor, but it shouldn't be the only factor, and it's changing. I mean, Robert Garcia, for example, not senior, he's junior to me. I think he's only been there a couple terms. I believe he's done a fabulous job on the oversight committee as a younger member, and he overcame seniority. I mean, the politics better than me. There's a reason that there was seniority. I mean, it was very hard for someone who was Black in this country to win statewide office. Their power up was through the congressional system. Many of them have achieved positions finally of influence, and there's a legitimate reason for that. But it can't be the only factor, and I do think the Democratic Party is coming to a balance with that. The other thing is that one of the things, that not to be too much on Hakeem, one of the things that he's very confident on is, if you look at the amount of TV that AOC has, or I have, or other people have in the caucus, it's probably more than Hakeem. I mean, the guy is a very secure leader. He's fine having people in the caucus be out there and be the spokespeople. And I'm less concerned about who the committee chairs are and more about who our voices are on podcasts and television, and who's the face of the future of the party.
Which is probably
what's your district like? Just roughly, like what's the Dem plus on your district?
It's high. It's about 25 points.
Right. So you don't need to go do the media you do, right? I see you everywhere. Why do you do that? Like, what's the message that you bring to your caucus to say, I see you on Fox, I see you everywhere? The normal old school model would be, hey, cater to the left. Don't worry. Don't make mistakes. What makes Ro Khanna want to go out there and speak to audiences that aren't natural for the Democratic caucus?
One, to learn. And I don't say this. I say this because I did this starting as a freshman member of Congress. I didn't have some grand plan as a freshman member of Congress when I went to Hal Rogers' district in Paintsville, Kentucky, when I went on a podcast. And, I take a different approach. I was just on Hannity last night.
I saw it.
And I take a different approach. Some people want to go on there and want to school the host and, then get the clip. And I'm sure there's some times I try that. But I just want to come off as saying, okay, he's reasonable. He listens. Okay, where are things? Where are my blind spots? What am I not understanding? Right. So Hannity starts with, can you name the 3 people who were killed? Who were killed by people who were undocumented? And I said, I know the 3 people. I couldn't name their names. Now, it was a gotcha question, but what does that say to me? Well, there's an emotional, we say Renee Good, there's an emotional value to that. There's an emotional value on the other side of people who have been killed by those who are undocumented. I need to understand and appreciate that emotional value. And some people will come in saying, Hannity just interrupted you. I come out thinking, okay, what do I need to understand? What do I need to learn? What can I do to be a better public servant for this country? And that's how I was on the Epstein files, because I was talking to a lot of people. And so, I'm not sure if that's the best style to
No. I think it's fascinating. I'll give you kudos.
Great answer.
We need more of it. We need more of it in this country. And we're going to get to Epstein here soon, but we got to dive into 2028 a little bit. Gavin Newsom found himself squirming in Ben Shapiro's chair. Let's take a look.
No. Ben Shapiro was in his chair.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That is not an
That's even better. That's even better, actually. Amazing. Okay, let's pull up this clip. Element 2
have now been dragged into this conversation. Some dragged, some run with flags waving into the conversation.
This notion of genocide.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, look,
Israel did not commit a genocide in Gaza. There is no standard by which Israel committed a genocide in Gaza, just on a factual level.
Just as a legal and factual level.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is your opinion of this?
My opinion is, I understand the tendency for people to make that, to assert that.
Why?
On the basis of the images and the proportionality as it relates
doesn't mean genocide.
No. And by the way, I agree with you.
And international and proportionality doesn't mean that if you kill my child and I then kill 7 criminals, that I've been disproportionate.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think but I understand that tendency on the basis of trying to reconcile the proportionate nature of how the war was ultimately conducted and the devastation.
I have a question. Why do you feel the need to create a permission structure for that sort of stuff? I mean, meaning it's not true.
Yeah.
Why not just say it's not true?
Yeah. I don't know the definition, or I don't know the legal threshold. That's not my opinion. So I don't share that opinion as it relates to genocide. I do not agree with that notion.
Right. Democrats have now been dragged.
Let's jump out of that a little bit. So
it's just remarkable that Shapiro started interviewing Newsom with the Gavin Newsom show behind him.
Says he doesn't know the definition of genocide, won't sort of take a position on it, squirms a little bit about it. So, Congressman,
the idea that didn't get more pickup is unbelievable. Like that was a unforced error.
So, Congressman, you have been sort of throwing a little bit of shade at the governor of California lately. You seem to sort of.
Well, I don't understand the tendency for Democratic politicians to use those kind of sentences, but
which kind of sentences?
I don't know, like understand the tendency to do that. Like, Donald Trump or Bernie Sanders, they just speak. Yes, it's a genocide. No, it's not a genocide. Then you go into things. I just think there's, when you're out talking, this word is so overused of authenticity. It's just say what you believe. Say what you stand for. Most Americans do that. By the way, most Americans don't have all fully thought out positions on everything. They don't have hundreds of nuances, but they want to know where's your gut. And then you can do the nuance. And they want to know where do you stand? And are you willing to then live with the consequences? I make this point in my caucus all the time. The number of positions Donald Trump has taken that are 30 to 70 are innumerable. But most people don't vote that way. They don't have this checklist and say, how many of these positions are 70-30 or 30-70 positions? They look at people and say, is this guy strong? Does this guy have conviction? Is this guy a leader? Is this guy hopeful? Is he optimistic? That's how we elect people, not by some calculus of where you stand on whether to call it a genocide or not. But if you squirm about it, people say, well, does he really believe that?
And that's how he came off. Like, this was not.
In your view, he's inauthentic, would you say?
No, look, that's too harsh. I think he would do himself better if he just spoke what he thinks. One of the things that Biden, I know people maybe down on Biden, and it was not a great end to his career. But I remember being in the Oval Office for him, and he says, Ro, you're a Bernie guy. I said, yes, I am. He says, Ro, I'm for Medicare for all too. I just think there's no shot in hell it's ever going to happen in this country. And that's why I was opposed to it. Right? He was very clear. He was, here's who I am. Bernie's very clear. Here's who I am. Trump is pretty clear. Here's who he is. And I think that sense of knowing where you stand and then letting the chips fall where they may is probably what we need more of in this country.
I want you to complete this sentence. If I decide to run for president, it will be because of blank. You, Rokana.
Because I would have the knowledge that I'd be the best person to lead this country in the times that we have. And for me, if I make that decision, I believe we're going to be in an AI revolution. I believe this country is going through a huge technology change. My district has $18 trillion of wealth. Literally 1/3 of the national wealth is in my district. Mm-hmm. And what I want to know is, how is America in the places I grew up, in Bucks County, in Western Pennsylvania, in Warren, Ohio? How are those folks going to have economic success and economic independence? How are we as a country going to succeed in the 21st century economy? And if I thought that was the central issue, I would run. If there was other central issues where my expertise was not what I thought was best for the country, I wouldn't run. But I think this country is deeply wise. I do. I really think the voters are wise. It's hard for me to see this now after having lost 2 congressional races early in my career, then won the 3rd time. I think they were actually absolutely correct. No business winning my first 2 races. And so, we don't, not say we always get it right, but one of the things I think we made a mistake as Democrats when Trump won twice, and I've voted to impeach him twice. But the first thing we did was attack him. And we never said, like, what is 50% of this country telling us? Is it just that all democracy is wrong? Is it this democracy working because people in my district in Silicon Valley were flying to Davos more than they were flying to Warren, Ohio? And had Trump never won, we would have kept going down that wet road. No one would have been like, what should we do in Johnstown, Pennsylvania? What should we do with hollowed out communities? And so I don't agree with his solutions. But my view is to have a respect for American voters. And there are only 2 cardinal sins, I think, in American politics. One is to think you're better than the actual voters, because this is a 250-year-old country. And no matter how smart you are, you probably haven't contributed more than the collective sacrifice of the nation. And the other is to not bleed a deep love for this country, which people can smell out after months of getting to know you.
So, Congressman, speaking of respect for the voters, in our party, today is the deadline for states who would like to go first.
Hey, Dan, just real quick, before, because I want to get to your DNC question, but before you do, can you just answer this yes or no? Knowing what you just said, if the Dems won back the House, yes or no, would you advise your party to impeach him a 3rd time?
Yes, you can have accountability, but one can have accountability with also putting a forward-looking vision at the same time.
So, Congressman, their states are jockeying to go first. You may or may not be a candidate. Do you have a point of view on what state should go first?
I don't. I mean, I think they should. I think there should be smaller states where you have to campaign, where you have to be in people's living rooms, where you have to really earn people's trust, where you can't just flood the media to try to win. And it should reflect the broad base of our party. There should be people from all different parts of our party. But I think the early states that are part of the consideration, in New Hampshire, South Carolina, Nevada, Michigan, I mean, there could be others, but those seem to be reasonable. What the order is, let's see.
You've been at the fore of, the whole Epstein saga for a very long time now. And I think a lot of people, both parties, very much appreciate you pushing for the release of those documents. But you have been critical of the president for not meeting that December 19th deadline to release everything. And you've said that Pam Bondi, the attorney general, should be held in contempt. But my question today, given, the Clintons not showing up for this subpoena testimony, what about them? I mean, they refused to sort of follow through with a subpoena or follow a subpoena. Shouldn't they be held accountable too?
They should show up. Here's what I think they should do. I'm not saying they'll take my advice. They have called for the release of all the Epstein files. They should say, let's release all the files and then we'll show up. And if they show up, Donald Trump should show up. I mean, that's that, and answer the question. So let's get the files out first. But certainly, I think they should be showing up after the files are released. Let's release the files.
You have said you don't support holding them in contempt because next week the House Oversight Committee is likely going to vote to hold them in contempt. But some Democrats, like Maxwell Frost, refuse to sort of rule out doing that, saying that even though Republicans are sort of playing politics with that, they do not want to send the signal that they're playing politics and could potentially vote to hold them in contempt. Why are they wrong?
I'm not looking at what the signal is politically. I'm just looking at it from a matter of a principle. I think the president should come in and testify, but I think it should be after the Epstein files. Now, if the files are released and he's still not coming in and testifying, then I think that there should be consequences. But right now, he's saying, he's given written statements, and hasn't ruled out that he would come in and testify to the committee. So I think that would be at the best premature. And the second thing is, look, we didn't hold Trump in contempt after he didn't come in January.
But you held Bannon and Navarro went to prison for defying a committee subpoena.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I felt about putting someone in prison over that either. I mean, but a former.
You think that was wrong that they did that? That they were sent?
I think he should have been held in. I think contempt is fine. Prison is harsh. I mean, I'm not sure someone should just go to prison for a congressional defying it, unless it's egregious. I mean, I'd have to look at all the facts. But the point of it is the president should make it clear he would come in after the files are released, and we should have Donald Trump as well.
So what's next on this? I know you and Congressman Thomas Massie have asked a federal judge to appoint a special master that would compel the Justice Department to release these files. Like, when are you expecting an answer on that? Like, what's next on this?
Well, Pam Bondi just today issued a letter to the judge saying, we're working on it. We're really doing better than people think. The challenge for them, and you all watched politics for a long time, is they keep doing this drip by drip release, and they think the whole thing is going to go away. And then I go on a podcast like Sean Ryan, who was a huge Trump supporter, who says, what are they hiding? Keep releasing the documents. When you have a factory worker in Michigan insulting or pushing the president on protecting pedophiles, this is broken through in the popular culture, and they should just get the files out. But Judge Engelmeyer has said that he's wants to be briefed on appointing a special master. He's on top of this. There are a few documents. I'm less concerned about how many documents get released, but that the key documents get released. The survivor statement to the FBI about who the other men were that were involved, and these prosecution memos. And I think the reason this has resonated so much goes back to our earlier discussion of why Trump won. I mean, Trump said these elites have screwed you. You go and you get a parking ticket, or you get a speeding ticket with a camera, and you don't pay them, and your car is going to get booted. But here you've got a group of people flying around, going to an island, covering up for the rape of underage girls or participating in that, and they have no consequences. I'm going to expose them. And that sense of elite impunity is at the heart of a lot of why a chunk of MAGA voted for him, and he's betraying that.
I want to move to our sort of winners and losers segment here in a minute. But before we do that, just a few miscellaneous questions that the three of us were sort of thinking as we were sort of prepping for this with you. I mean, I mentioned at the top that you actually, JD Vance has said you were one of his favorite Democrats. You actually have a relationship with him of some sort, right? What can you tell us more about what that is, number one? And number two, Republicans did a really good job of defining Kamala Harris when she was vice president as someone who couldn't handle anything, sort of attacking her before she even became the front runner for 2024. Do you think Democrats are doing enough right now to go out and define JD Vance, who's likely going to be the nominee, or should they be doing more?
No, I think he's defining himself. I don't know if how much more we need.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it was the two things I remember about him is sort of yelling at Zelensky, and now he's at this press conference championing the cause of this officer. I'm not sure. I think he has views that are outside the mainstream, and I don't think he has necessarily the same ability as Donald Trump to connect with some of the groups that Trump did. But look, let me say something honest and positive. I have a lot of respect for Usha Vance. I was for a year in Munger, Tolles and Olson, where she worked. I got to know her when she came to Washington, D.C. I don't think she had any idea that her husband or she was going to be thrust into the spotlight 2 years later. She's got a young family. Like me, she's of Hindu faith. I think the attacks on her are disgusting in terms of people going after her faith. I think the attacks on Vice President Vance in terms of what his relationship is with his wife are out of bounds. And frankly, as an Indian American, I think it's wonderful that we have an Indian American second lady. I also think that JD Vance is a is someone who thought about ideas. He thought about places like Middletown, where his grandparents, I think, worked at a steel plant. I read Hillbilly Elegy. I didn't agree with all of it, but I thought, okay, this guy is talking about things about the left out community. I just don't think that's the J.D. Vance who's in office. I mean, where's the National Industrial Bank? Where is the policies to help forgotten Americans in hollowed out towns? Where is the anti-war sense, where we've gone to too many wars overseas? So, the J.D. Vance that I think was an interesting figure in Hillbilly Elegy and in his Senate career is not the J.D. Vance as vice president.
Any thoughts on that, Sean? I know you have a.
I want to get. I know we need to get that.
Okay, let's do that. Let's move then. We'll go to
the side note, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but I do think it's the religion piece is fascinating to me, considering the attacks on people of Jewish faith. But I wish we had time to get into it, because I'd love to get your take on how you feel on the religious front, because I do think that if some of the stuff that's come up on the attacks and the ability of Jewish Americans to practice their faith and how that might affect you. But I will put that pin in it and wait.
Well, I would just say very quickly on that, and probably 95% of your viewers will disagree with where I am on the Gaza position. But I went to 2 synagogues in my district, and the rise of anti-Semitism is real, and it's ugly, and it has no place in this country. And there is a rise of anger against Hindu Americans. I mean, I am a person of faith. I'm of Hindu faith. I believe that faith should have an important part in our country, and we're a country of many faiths. And attacking people based on their faith absolutely has no place in this country.
Let's move to our final segment, because we got to get to questions here. Just so you're familiar, Congressman, we do this segment called Buying, Selling, and Watching. If you're buying someone, you think they're basically a winner. You're buying their stock, politician going up. If you're selling, it's like a bit of the opposite.
Everything has become polymarket now, huh?
It's true. There you go. Okay, so let's actually start with who you're selling. Dan, do you want to jump in?
You asked me? Is that what you said?
Yes, let's have you start.
All right. I on politics here. Pull out of Texas. Our friend Jasmine Crockett is not doing as well as I think some of her supporters had hoped. I would be selling her chances in the Texas Senate race.
Can she win, Congressman? You think she can win in Texas?
I supported her. I was surprised by the same poll Dan saw. I mean, I would have put money on her initially. Obviously, Telrico's a talented guy, and and if the poll is right, the challenge is her support with the Latino community. But there's still time.
Yep.
Sean, who's your loser?
My loser of the week
Who are you selling? Mm-hmm.
I'm selling Tim Walz. After saying that ICE was committing atrocities, his word, not mine, he's now putting out statements saying we need to back down. I think just shows that he went way too far, him and Jacob Fry in Minnesota.
Not just atrocities, but he called the whole thing an occupation. Anyway, let's go to the Congressman. What is who are you selling today?
I'm biased, but I'm selling Pam Bondi. The amount of people in the Republican base who do not like her and whose support she has lost is enormous, and I'm not sure how long she'll be there.
There's been a bunch of stories lately about some folks sort of agitating against her in the admin. The thing there is she's close with Susie Wiles, so it's hard for me to see the president ever getting rid of her. But I mean, people are certainly talking. Okay, my loser, or the person I'm selling right now, is former Senator Kyrsten Sinema, because of this crazy New York Post story that Dan flagged to me. Famously independent senator, obviously. She is being sued by her former bodyguard's ex-wife for allegedly destroying their 14 marriage and getting him to do psychedelics. So that's a headline that's...
If you haven't gone to the New York Post and you want some good...
I got to read this.
You should read it. Were you close with her?
This will probably get me in trouble, but I just read the headlines of that. How is she getting sued for someone having an affair?
This is in North Carolina, has a what it's called a home wrecker law, and so the person is suing there, and she's asking for $25,000, not a super lot of money, but regardless, I think the headline is. Were you close with her when you were in the House?
No, she was in the Senate, I think, by the time I got here. And
by the time you got here. Okay, yeah. Gotcha. Okay, let's do buying. Sean, we'll start with you.
I'm buying RFK. I think these announcements this week, both on the food pyramid, on bringing back whole milk, and then today, I don't know that it's gonna break through a lot, but he's announcing at least what appears to be, and I went down, I didn't go down into enough, but the potential impact that cell phones are having on our health. This has been something that I think has been covered up for a long time. This politically, Bobby Kennedy is doing more to help reach out to MAHA moms and people concerned about their health and wellness, and will be a long-lasting benefit to the Republican Party.
Congressman, do you think, just on the RFK thing very quickly, are you surprised that no one on the Hill has really asked him about, some of the more salacious headlines regarding him in the past couple of months, and a certain one former journalist, Olivia Nuzzi, and her ex-fiance, Ryan Lizza?
I think he's just been taken off the headlines with everything else going on with Venezuela, with ICE. What I would say about him is, obviously I have a very, very, very strong disagreement on all his vaccine policy, but the MAHA stuff was real. And in terms of a lot of people caring about their food, caring about the stuff we put in food that isn't healthy, a lot of young families caring about it. And I think the Democrats should have our agenda in how to speak to that.
Who's your winner?
My winner is Mamdani, not for ideological reasons, but there are two things he did that are pretty impressive. One, he got an executive order to eliminate fees on small businesses. And the other thing he did is make some progress on childcare. One of the knocks on the Democratic Party has been you keep getting elected and you don't do anything. You're not changing our lives. And I think we need more leaders, regardless of ideology, actually showing okay, if you give me power, here's what I'm going to do. And Mamdani has done that in 2 cases.
Do folks on the left get upset that he's texting buddies with the president? Or
I thought it was.
How do people react?
I thought it was like 2 talented politicians to go meet with the president. And I don't think we're supposed to have. That's democracy, and and they both have a populist streak to them. I thought that was very smart politics.
It's game recognizing game. Dan, your winner.
Bill Clinton used to, not text, but call Newt Gingrich and everyone at night like it's the 21st century version of it. He has been my loser more times than I can count in the last year. But today I'm going to give Chuck Schumer, for his political candidate recruitment skills, the winner of the week. He is just often maligned. Congressman talked about earlier, but
gave him a D.
Yeah, no, but between Texas and Alaska and, the Maine and look, we said it earlier in the week, 2025, January, we said no chance to take the Senate back. Today, there's the path.
And that's my $1 million question. I mean, and again, we don't have time to go down the rabbit hole, but if this guy pulls it off, I don't think he will. But if he does this give him new life politically to say, hey, you may not like me, but I brought you to the promised land? He becomes the Republican Mitch McConnell.
Look, I go back to 2006. No one saw Jim Webb coming until the summer of 2006. Schumer got some of these candidates who just inched and took off at Labor Day. May happen again.
Yeah, nothing unites a party like winning. So Schumer could have a life 2.0. Okay, my winner is the congressman for coming on the show. Let's go to what we're watching real quick. Who wants to go first? The congressman, go first.
What we're watching for what?
Yeah, what are you watching that's coming up?
I think he said his 49ers already.
Well, 49ers in Seattle, certainly on this weekend. But I think the way the ICE debate plays out is going to be very important in terms of what that's the next frontier of the fight in terms of the government not shutting down, what we're going to do in terms in pushing for a reduction in the funding. I think that will dominate a lot of January.
Sean?
Shoot.
3 things. I'm watching the Patriots. I'm watching what happens in Iran, both this weekend, by the way. And then I also want to see what the DNC comes out with in terms of their calendar.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Well, the congressman took a little bit of what I was going to say, which is I'm watching the Democratic Party on ICE funding because I believe for the first time in 3 years, have some momentum on the immigration issue. And I think if we divide and it really gets ugly about defunding ICE, we could lose that momentum.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge talker for the next 2 weeks before this government funding deadline. Watching, I'm going to be watching the Clinton contempt thing next week. I guess I'm curious, how far the Republican Party is going to take this. The president, the administration has shown that they are not afraid to go after the president's adversaries here. I mean, you saw what happened to Steve Bannon. Do they, take this to that level? I don't know, but I guess I wouldn't be surprised given what we have seen so far this year. Okay, it's 9:29. We have to let the congressman go, but we are going to take some questions.
Congressman, can I ask you one quick question though before you go? I had one thought on Minnesota that I didn't get to. That it's just based on your how you described it, because it sounds like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but do you believe that Renee Good was? Well, let me just put it to you this way. Could you rephrase what you said happened to Renee Good? Do you think that you said that he shot her in cold blood? Phrase, like, what did you think happened to her?
Well, she was shot and killed by.
Okay, but I think about this in the context of Ashley Babbitt after January 6th. Was she shot and killed point blank too?
She was, yeah. And I have not looked at all of those facts. I mean, if those, obviously she shouldn't have been there in writing, but if there was a case that there was disproportionate force, that should be investigated. I mean, that is, I am not for the disproportionate use of force, even if someone breaks the law or violates the law. And that's been this country's tradition and heritage and what makes us so a strong democracy.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on, Congressman. We really appreciate it. You're our second lawmaker who has joined since.
Oh, who was the first?
Eric Burleson.
Oh, great.
From Missouri. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
well, I enjoy the show, and I see your clips on the on my feed. So
awesome.
Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We'll see more now.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. Guys, stick around. We'll take a couple questions before we jump off. I know it's 9:31, but let's bring up a few. Okay. Will politicians on the Hill demonstrate the same lack of knowledge of medical costs that they did when debating the ACA? Seems like they are in danger of treating premium costs and deductibles / out-of-pocket like they're the same thing. Trump's outline is treating them the same. This is referring to the president's rollout yesterday, probably, this sort of overview. Dan, you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we've talked about the fact that Trump's idea of just sending money directly to people and not the insurers is to some extent ridiculous, because then they're going to take the money and go buy insurance from the insurers. No one is talking, not on our side or on the Republican side, about this long-term trend of rising premiums and deductibles. And I think people have a right to ask these questions, and I don't see answers to it right now.
First of all, I give thanks to Curious Observer. It's a fantastic question. This is a fabulous discussion, and I feel like it goes back to what Dan and I were talking about a little bit before about energy and AI. Like, there are big issues and national security issues where I feel like sometimes we all want the 30-second answer, the yes or no, and I'm guilty of it sometimes as well. I asked O'Connell the same thing, where yes or, and not every issue is black and white, yes or no. And I think healthcare is similar in the sense that it's a lot more complicated. I give the president credit. I actually was surprised to see just them drop that out yesterday. I was like, where did this come from?
You and the rest of Capitol Hill, by the way.
Right, but they talked about PBM reforms, which again is nuanced, but like it's a huge driver of cost. And I wish there had been a better or a bigger rollout of that, because I think he's at least putting a marker down on addressing some of the cost drivers. So I really do think that we need a bigger and discussion on what's going on, because the system sucks. No one's happy about it. The costs are out of control, and it's obviously a very important and personal issue to so many people.
Let's take one more. Let's take one more. Okay. Will the Supreme Court overturn the Voting Rights Act early enough so states can redistrict in time?
Two amazing questions.
Great question. I mean, we just don't know. There are rumors it could be next week. Certainly, if it were next week, That would be interesting because some southern states primaries are in a couple weeks. So, you know, they would have to try to pull the plug and potentially delay them. Great question. Probably the question about who controls the House, because if you didn't see it yesterday, Cook Political Report, probably the best nonpartisan analysis of individual House races, moved 18 seats to lean Democrat. Today, Democrats probably take the House.
It's funny. I was just going to say, I've actually heard sort of conflicting things on this. Like there are some really well-connected political operatives who think they could redraw a bunch of things, even if they rule as late as June. But then I've also had some other very well-connected political operatives tell me that even if they rule in the next month, that a lot of the states, they don't think they'll be able to by then. So I am curious about this too. I'm just hearing conflicting reports. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The beautiful thing about the question that this individual is asking is timing, because I do think it's going to happen, but it's not just when it rules, it's then what states can work within that construct. That's the key to this whole thing. It's sort of like anything else. Like it's not just the outcome, but there's a lot of states that are saying we will, but we won't be able to do it now. Even in Virginia, the law states that you have to have a referendum in between elections. And then but the question was the legislative action last session legal because voting had already begun? And it's kind of an interesting thing. I think it's fascinating because it actually bites the Democrats in the butt. They wanted all this early voting, and then the legislature didn't meet until after voting started. So therefore, does that constitute an election or a session intervening between? I don't know. There's a lot of these things that are going to be fascinating between now and then, because if you can run up the score on how many seats are safe, quote unquote, because of redistricting, you really keep the Republican chances a lot higher.
All right, guys, that's all the time we have for. I hope everybody has a great weekend. Sean, did you have something you wanted to?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we talked a lot about courts today. Mike Davis from Article 3 is going to be on the show tonight, and I literally was making notes as we went on. So we're going to break down everything the court has addressed, the rulings and what's expected, and then the cases that it's expected to hear, like birthright citizenship. So we'll get into all of that tonight at 6.
Okay.
And again, thank you to everyone who's bought Trump 2.0 on Amazon. I continue to be humbled by the early sales. So thank you.
Just a reminder, folks, if you've signed up for the premium subscription, we are going to be jumping off this right now and jumping right on that. Let's say everyone, if you can get there, 9:45, 9:45, we're going to be sending out the link right now. Jump on. We will continue this conversation a little more in person with Zoom, so we can see your beautiful faces. But otherwise, if that's it, we will see you guys Monday at 8:30.
Monday, I know. We'll be here. So you have no excuses, folks.
Yeah. All right. Have a good one.